Welcome back, everyone, to Michigan, to Temperance, Michigan, in a totally unplanned emergency broadcast. I'm here with great producer Andy DeBala. We've already printed how many books, Andy? Three.
Three and five is
In the hopper, and so we're printing those books from this afternoon. But I came back to my Amazon account to find that my account was terminated. In Amazon, the way that works with authors is you have what they call a KDP, which is a Kindle desktop publishing application. And the way you do it, Eddie's going to go back and print some more books. The way it works is you put up the manuscript, and then you do the cover, and then you do the checking and so forth, and then you do the pricing, and then you publish your ebook, your Kindle version of your book, and then you go out and then you do the same thing for your paperback. And the channel, that application was terminated by Amazon. They did send me one thing about the YouTube logo, which I had used on a book that I had taken down a long time ago. And YouTube's sort of like Kleenex now. Everyone says, it's 95 to 98% dominant. And if you want to say something against YouTube, you put in a logo. If they're a part of a story, YouTube fighting out with Facebook, you have a YouTube logo and a Facebook logo and boxing gloves, and they're punching it out for who's dominant in social media, right? So, but apparently YouTube put in a complaint. And that book, by the way, this was a book about what we did in March of last year. It's been down. It's a banned book. It's been banned, I think, over a year. But it wasn't until I get home to Michigan, right? We do a show here that they terminate my account. Now, they're still selling my books is the even more unbelievable part about this. So even though I'm not making any revenue on my books, I'm going to probably lose all the revenue I've made this quarter. So, probably one of my best quarters ever. It certainly is my best quarter as far as paperbacks are concerned, because I'd done Kindles before this mostly. So I'll probably lose that revenue, but which is heartbreaking because it was my only source of income after the State Department, two State Department employees came after my Patreon. So, lemons and lemonade, folks. That's all you can do. It's these are dominant market players. Facebook's dominant in social friendship exchange media, social networking. YouTube's dominant in self-publishing creator video. Amazon is dominant, completely dominant in self-publishing books. So the only thing we can do is print ourselves. And of course, when you come out with a new book and you decide to, do the paperback yourself and do the Kindle on Kindle, I don't know if that was behind the decision or not, but right now I cannot access in any way, shape, or form 42 of my books, 6 more of them banned. So 48 in all, everything gone. So here's the good news. For the first time today, we ran a limited signed editions for the first 50 folks who bought a limited signed edition of this book, Corona Roadshow. It's thicker now. I've added about 7 or 8 pages since this morning with all the things you saw on the show today. And 3 of those already exist. It's got a little nice ribbon up here, first edition. I'm going to be signing it here saying, this is, copy 1 out of 50. I think we still have, please order the rest so Andy can just print all 50 and we can just go to Amazon. We sold 36 and I'd like to sell the rest here on this show. But what I thought I would do is just say, well, Amazon just accelerated our schedule. Amazon just moved it up. It's not going to be the Book of the Month Club anymore. It's not going to be the Book of the Week Club anymore. It's not going to be the Book of the Week Club anymore. I can't wait 42 weeks to get my revenue back. We're going to have to make it a Book of the Day. And it's going to mean me rewriting, because I wanted every book that I republished, I want to rewrite and update. So it may not be a book of the day club, but it may be a book every other day. And I'm going to just start working around the clock to get everything back out and under our own auspices publishing. So in a way, it might be lemons and lemonade. In a way, it might be lemons and lemonade. So what I thought I would do for folks who have bought the book, and I always do this, I say, well, let's do a private audio, so I can, it's sort of like the book's the play-by-play, and then you can take it to the beach, whatever. But then the audio would be nice too, because people jog and they, in the shower, or they're cooking, or they're driving a truck, or they're doing deliveries, or they're in their car just commuting. Let's do an audio book, which is sort of like the color commentary. And that way, kind of one hand washes the other with the play-by-play and the audio and the color commentary. And it's like, wow, it's a really nice, beautiful, holistic experience, right? Kind of nice. But there it is. Here's the first one, hot off the press. Come on camera so everybody knows I'm not lying about Andy Twala. There he is.
First edition. If you look in the top corner.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh,
it's hot. It's hot too. It's hot off the press, literally hot off the press. I'm so proud of this book. And you could see literally things we were talking about today, right, are in this book, right? So that's the beauty of, really desktop publishing. No kidding. And it's a beautiful book. And Andy's choice of paper and Tom CIA just made this an incredible joy of like seeing your baby, graduate from med school or something. It's a really amazing thing. So what I thought I would do is very quickly give you the color commentary. So this is the audio. And so like I was saying before, let's just do an audio companion. And then Andy and I will be talking about it a little bit more. And they'll say, well, gosh darn it, let's do the video. Because some people do want to see the video and they do want to see the graphics and, of the book. And it'll remind them of when they are at the beach looking at that same picture at, one hand and watch the other visually. And then the inevitable happens. You guessed it. Well, wouldn't it be great if we went live and included all of our audience in and all the great chat and all that? Then we can screenshot that. And your researchers are so fantastic. They always put great things in. So we're doing that too. So if you don't mind, I don't mind. The sound of, you hear that sound in the back of jogging of books. That's the step that happens before you put it into the binder, right? That's the sound of neighborhood news saying, okay, Amazon, we'll go ahead from making, $2 or $1 for a $28 book to, a lot more. That's fine. Every time you hear that, I sort of hear, I don't want to say F-bomb Amazon, but it's something real close. So let's go through it. You're going to see it in a window here. You're going to see the different stuff. And this is stuff that, just like I said, just got added. And the bottom line here is in this first page, the coronavirus outbreak is tremendously similar to the Spanish flu outbreak. In that, an accusation was made that U.S. soldiers were very infected. There was actually a lot of prisoners let go from Fort Leavenworth after they were sick, which is not a good idea usually, to mix in a whole bunch of sick soldiers with a whole bunch of other soldiers on these train cars going across the country, slow train car to these, I don't know if it's the Port of New Orleans or where they left from, but then it became not the sickness train, but then the sickness ship. And then when the ship got to Calais, which was the port of embarkation for World War I, then the war didn't last too much longer. And then it became the port of disembarkation in Calais. And then the similar thing happened for the crossing of the soldiers into Dover into the United Kingdom. And to a lesser extent, the other ports, as the other soldiers started going home, Spanish soldiers, and I think the Italians switched at some point or whatever. There was an international outbreak. This is the same story right now with coronavirus. 100 years later, it's the same story. A whole bunch of soldiers get sick at one fort. They go to another fort, practicing for the games, Fort Belvoir, Fort Hood, Fort Sam Houston. I think it was the final point. And then at 7 or 8 different forts. And then they all get on planes this time. So this is the plane twist, which means a lot faster. And, maybe some people got better on the ship because it was 28 days for the ship to get over to Calais. Back in 100 years ago with Spanish flu, this one is instant. And then the super spreader event happens where you also have all the planes coming in to the point of embarkation and then all the planes leaving 10 days later, 14 days later. So it's sort of like real super fast motion of the Spanish flu. And it could be that the H spikes and the N spikes of the Spanish flu, H1N1, is in this artificial flu, which would even make it more ironic. Isn't it ironic? Yeah. So that's that first page. That's what that first page says. Okay. And just in case you were wondering, you saw this earlier, the Congress is into an investigation now of this. You saw Eddie's piece that he did on the Canadians, and the journalist up there, I believe he's in Toronto. Toronto's only 245 miles. If Keene wants to come down to this, make this his Canada, USA International Publishing Center, that'd be great. Je parle un peu français pour mon ami de Canada. So the big idea here is, let's find out who did this. This is a detective story. This is the greatest detective story of all time. Sherlock Holmes may have worked on the original Spanish flu. This is our chance. That's the setup here. If you want to find a criminal, find out who did a similar crime before at the same place with the same MO. That's the general idea of our channel. We're going to take the tried and true investigative techniques that have been successful throughout history and apply them to news to see if we can't find some answers where we've only been given cover stories and false narratives. That's the idea. So if Battelle Institute is the one managing the lab where the lab leak occurs, and Battelle has been involved in lab leaks before, 1,200 vials being found one time, 99 vials being found another time. But more importantly, this time, the lab leak right as we have the international outbreak. Start there. Start there. And if you've ever had a back channel where leaks are profitable, look to those people who are involved in that chain. Okay? Sort of like bank robberies are profitable for the Barrow gang, and bank robberies are profitable for Ocean's 11. If it's a really super sophisticated robbery of a casino that has all kinds of defenses like these BSL-4 labs do, it's probably an inside job. It's probably a team of experts that really, really know what's going on. So we probably have a team that's going to be using encryption. We probably have a team that's going to be using the cloak of speech and debate in the Congress to hide the kickbacks. It's probably going to be used with people who have billions of dollars that can finance these things. It's probably going to be used with people who are FBI informants and working under the cover of color of law. So tell me, our first 3 minutes in our meeting of all of our detectives here, tell me about when the Battelle Institute has ever had a whole bunch of warlords and intermediaries that are FBI informants going back and forth with kickbacks and IP traffic to those FBI people around the corner and to the Congress. Tell me about all those situations. Okay, let's start our discussion there. It's just simple logic, right? So, and I'm open here to anyone else who can answer that question with the FBI informants, with the warlord, with the contacts and IP traffic to FBI, contacts and IP traffic to the Congress, IP encrypted communications, DIA training at Fort Huachuca, access to top secret and Q level clearance information at Redstone Arsenal, DOD clearance at the Defense Industries Security Clearance location. I'm open to anyone else who comes up with that kind of example. Open to anyone else. What I'm presenting to you and what seems so offensive to YouTube today, and I guess this is like, if you're one false narrative, producing engine like CNN, and you have another, state-sponsored, state actor, dominant player like YouTube and Amazon, I guess they all hang out together. They're all like three bullies that are just, well, I realize you're only going up against 98-pound weakling, but he kind of kicked your ass the last 3 days. You tried to shake him down for lunch money. So we're going to help, right? CNN, you're not doing it. We're going to help. YouTube's going to get in this with you. Now Amazon's in it. Now I'm now meeting all three of these guys. Actually, we're going to handle them anyway. But that's what this page is. The next 5 panels are all about. Okay. The next 5 panels is boom. There's Battelle. Okay. Boom. There's what the building looks like. These are just visuals. So you can go, okay, that's what it looks like. Okay. That's Columbus. Okay. George was just there a couple days ago. Okay. King. Got it in my mind. Battelle. George H.W. Bush connections going way back. Harry the Greek, million articles about all those connections going back to Robert Hughes. Got it. The new kids on the block are Struck and Page, Nellie Orr. Got it. Okay. Battelle manages all these bioweapons places. I get it. So they put their people in. That's how they get the leaks. Got it. Okay. So that's what these panels are about. Just so you can see exactly where it is. I put the visual of the river and the bridge. So when you go to Columbus and you see the bridge and you're going to go, hey, I know this park. George stood there. There's where Fruman and Parnas were. And there's where Peter Struck and Lisa Page were. Got it. And there's a picture of them. Okay. If you don't know them, there they are. There's IP traffic to them. Again, this is evidence-based. This isn't speculation. And then there's Senator Marshall writing a letter to Javier Becerra. And because you've watched our channel in the past, you know Becerra is the guy who hid the Awan server, which was probably also the same bioweapon server. So you know this is going nowhere. So that's what you know already. Okay. And so I'll just put some additional things out there that you haven't seen. This is the French saying, hey, we knew something was wrong. You heard the Canadian report earlier this morning with Keene. This is the French saying, hey, everyone's, having involuntary bathroom movements in the shower, and here's all the risks involved and why we shouldn't go and so forth. Here's the IP coordinates. Same guys involved in the Trump impeachment. Does that make sense? Does it make sense? The guy who's hot on your heels, you want to say you can't be in office anymore? If you gave the Ocean's 11 guys the employment control of Sherlock Holmes, would they fire Sherlock Holmes and put on Inspector Clouseau on the job? Yeah, of course they would. Right? So here is something we didn't show today, but it's this guy. He's a real good video blogger. And he's outside in front of the compound of the Wuhan Games. And he's saying, hey, you can come and go as you please. But we know now from the testimony that's leaking out that the athletes were shut in, right? Almost from the beginning of this, which again, if you have the Shin Chi girls going in there as servers in the cafeteria, that's one way to spread this thing. It's one way to control the experiment. It's one way to create a bell jar for the experiment rather than having a lot of uncontrolled variables. This is simple science, right? You put them inside the gates, you close the gates, or make it hard to get in and out. You have to have 10 escorts. All the pretty Shin Chi girls are at the cafeteria anyway. There's 100 different types of food you can order at the cafeteria. So that's the cafeteria. That's why we show you the cafeteria. And he says that there's 100 different types of food in the first week and 100 different types of food in the second week. And he doesn't show the Shin on She girls that are the servers, but let me just tell you, you can't leave the compound very often, and all the action's inside. All the pretty girls are inside, and there's all the athletes. But you do have from your balcony a nice view of Wuhan. There's your nice view of Wuhan. You can see almost no one. This is during the games. No one out there, right? Which is very unusual for athletic events. Usually, I wasn't a great athlete. I just was a workhorse. I was a mule in a sport built for racehorses, right? But I was the plotter who could, right? So I was always shooting free throws or working out, or anytime Andy isn't jogging books to make Amazon mad, he's throwing a football. That's how athletes are. They want to stay loose all the time. They don't want to be they don't want to start laying around. They always want to be moving. Runners especially, they're always kind of stretching and doing sprints. There's nobody here. It's a ghost town. We've had a lot of these descriptions coming in saying there's a ghost town. That's why we're showing you the visuals, okay? Now, even more concerning is the State Department's hand on these games. A lot of people are going to say, well, it's just friendship, and all these guys came together in friendship, and all these generals came together in friendship. The generals just naturally came together in friendship, or it was USAID paying a One Health Alliance university network for them all to be happy and cooperate and collaborate. And that's exactly what happened. Okay. And the One Health Network and One Health Network Alliance is led by one Peter Daszak and EcoHealth Alliance. EcoHealth Alliance is a One Health Alliance. Same State Department USAID program, the PREDICT program, right? And interestingly enough, the French guy who inherits the games, Hervé, remember Hervé Villachez, boss, the plane, right? This Hervé goes, boss, the virus. The plane is coming on the virus. Boss, did you not hear me? The plane. The virus is coming on the plane. Yeah, that Hervé. He is the guy who runs this thing, and he just happens to be attending all the EcoHealth Alliance meetings in the summer of 2019 before the CISM games, the NATO Wuhan CISM games in October. Wait a minute. You're attending the virus meetings? Hervé's attending the virus meetings? He's doing military games. I mean, I could see a lot of other things. I could see him attending the cycling trials, or how am I going to promote the games? Which athletes should I be doing up close and personal? And, do I have enough medicine in the infirmary? Do I have, parking for everybody? Do I have second circuits for all the television cameras, et cetera, et cetera? The last thing I'm thinking about is the One Health Alliance, U.S. State Department meetings for viruses in the summer. Seems like a set hand here. Seems like a clockwork orange here. Here's more confirmation. When we said it was mid-October, when the breakout occurred, that's the epidemiology. When we said that 16 months ago, CNN said we were conspiracy theorists. They went even further and said we were terrorists. Now we have the University of Kent here, and esteemed, world-renowned epidemiologists saying it's probably early October. Early October. There may be even some countries that even precede or parallel China. Early October. And most certainly, the super spreader event is the Wuhan military games. Now, when the Chinese minister first said that 16 months ago, they said it was absolute impossibility. It was a fishmonger that did it. Remember? That was the first story out of the blocks. Now later it was like they keep moving the thing back 1 week at a time. Now that we're almost back into September now. This is going to end up 1,000 miles upriver in Chengdu in August. That's where it's going to end up. So we have a couple of introductory slides just to show you that we don't go to the places and, just basically sit at the beach. We were at the beach in San Diego for almost 10 days. I never put my toes in the sand. I think I went down there for about 3 minutes, even though we were literally right there at the beach. We went to places like this, industrial ports, and looked at machinery and robots loading and unloading ships, right, in the port of Long Beach. And we did this. We did a book signing here as well. But just to show you that we're going to the actual places, houses with big hedges are not that interesting, other than when you go there, you can say, hey, I can see as far as the eye can see in one direction, and I can see as far as the eye can see in the other direction. One side's a military base and a Navy base, a Marine base and a Navy base, tucked away inside that Point Loma Peninsula. And the other way, I can see ships coming. That's pretty important if you're trying to sneak stuff out of the Navy base. Right there, that house right there is right on top of that hill. And it's also right next to the high school, which I couldn't have believed if I had have written the script. And the fact that different people and different license plates were there. One was from Washington, D.C. when we went there now. Another one was from Florida. We just said, oh, my God, this is the Blackstone Express. Again, I could see one license plate maybe being from, I don't know, Oklahoma. But 2 East Coast license plates there on the West Coast. It was just too rich. But we go to the Queen Mary there, and then you see the Russian sub. How many Nazi spies that we thought were Russian were actually, Nazi spies being brought into the space program or aviation in Southern California. We don't know, but they've saw to it. And I know Howard Hughes didn't put it there. I think Mayhew or somebody who knew Mayhew did. But anyway, there it is. There's the Russian sub. Just so you get an idea of what's there, we take you back to the different places where we go to the Navy lab, doing the smart dust, doing the, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could get this smart dust somehow inculcated? It didn't sit on their skin, but if we could inculcate it into people's lungs and see it like a chest x-ray. Hey, those radiologists do this all the time. You take contrast agents all the time. We could somehow get the ferritin and nanoferritin. If somehow the nanoferritin could link up like iron filings do when you get it near a source, it'd give us a cross section. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be cool? So we take you there. We take you and point to you across the way and say the Mark centers, Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Mark 4. Those were the places where DARPA consolidated all these programs and consolidated all these bases in this BRAC, this base realignment and closure. And it all the DARPA and all the IP went over there, right? And then you had companies like Flynn Intel Group saying we're a private DARPA, Iodonacy saying we're a private DARPA. We had White Canvas Productions saying, hey, everything's a white canvas. If you want us to paint the story on the canvas, to do the propaganda the way you want it to go, you're going to have to pay us. Right? You're going to have to pay us. Oh, Tunisia? Great. We'll have a lady cop slapping a fruit vendor. And we'll say self-immolates. We'll even set him on fire for you. I mean, that's not a problem. But, it'll inflame the hell out of the Muslim youth. That'll be great. What are we going to do in Egypt? Well, we'll have a big camel charge through a crowd. And we'll say the cops did it. That's great. God, Iodonacy, you're a smart guy, right? That's White Canvas Productions. So we take you there to remind you, khaki, right? Next slide's khaki and the Redstone Arsenal, of course, Fruman and Parnas, top secret Q level clearances at Redstone. Why 2 low-level operatives for 20 years, both convicted of fraud 20 years ago on the Maggot Mile, threatening to shoot people with Lugers or 9mm on the street in Florida. Why are these the people that are setting up Trump's meeting with Zelensky? Think about that. Why are two career criminals who seem to love to chat with Peter Strzok and Adam Schiff, why are they the ones setting up the weapons deals for the missiles in Ukraine? Could it be that we'll wipe out all the bioweapon stuff they've ever done and all the lab leaks they've ever done if they do us this little favor over here with the missiles as a cover-up? Kaki's the lawyer, Kaki's a defense contractor that put up Hina Alvi and all the people that she had coming and going in her house. Isn't it interesting now? Hina Alvi lived down the street, and here's Imran. They supposedly wanted to be spending time together, yet they have two separate houses. Yet she's in Frederick, Maryland, right, where the bioweapons are, and he's over there worried about the port of Baltimore. I understand couples, don't like each other or whatever, and so they buy separate houses, but for 12 years, and then he marries supposedly two other women, and they all don't know about each other. It seems like a kind of a cover to me. It seems like that's kind of a cover. Now I don't have to testify about Hina Alvi anymore. If Hina Alvi's my expert on bioweapons coming back and forth to Frederick, she's also down in Tampa at SOCOM in a health company. Again, Imran's on the other side of Florida. Ports of entry, ports of exit. These are just little reminders. So when you see that khaki, you think of the people who were put out there supposedly renting that Hina Alvi house. That's Charlize Champagne Pepignon. Charlize Champagne Pepignon. Sounds like a high-end mustard. Charlize Champagne Pepignon. We have the Dijon, monsieur. C'est possible. Vous êtes très riche. Are you rich? Possiblement. Charlize Champagne Pepignon. Yeah, everything good. D'accord.
Do you have any more of these?
No, so we're gonna have to get more. Yeah, we're in the business now a lot quicker. We're in the printing business a lot quicker now than we thought we'd be. So there's the front of the Redstone Arsenal. These are just visual cues and anchors. Okay, some people say, well, that's superlative. That's unnecessary. That you provide these visual cues and anchors for us to then take to the next news story to, analyze the news better. Maybe, maybe not. With the logo, right? So we walk you through a history of, hey, once a poisoner, always a poisoner, right? If you Mark Twain loved to poison people, not to kill them, but he thought it was funny. He poisoned a gambler or somebody who criticized him on a steamboat once, and got very sick. He also caused a steamboat accident, which his brother died. Caused the boiler to explode, and he boiled his brother alive. But I don't want to get down on Mark Twain. I love Mark. I love the man. But once a poisoner, always a poisoner, right? And the poisoner in chief, right here, is Sidney Gottlieb, and he's working for this guy who says, I'm a man-eating shark, right? The guy who Bissell, probably ended up in the early untimely death of John's father, Macduff. His henchman, make no bones about it, is Sidney Gottlieb, poisoner in chief. Once a poisoner, always a poisoner, right? So we just remind you of that. And we show you Ratlines by the Sea. I'm going to be selling that book probably tomorrow for another limited edition, because now we have no choice. If Amazon's making money on me and my books, while I can't even see the sales anymore, that really sucks. I knew something happened 2 days ago. This is way before I got any notice about the YouTube logo, where my sales took a dramatic drop. I was selling 100 books a day, and then all of a sudden they went to 30. I said, oh, something's up. That wasn't a very slick algorithm there. That wasn't a very slick AI. That was over a third. It's not like views on a video where they can gradually turn it down. These are people doing transactions, right? Like I want to buy your stuff. Here's money. I want to buy your stuff. And you're tracking at 100, 150, 130, 120, sometimes 80, sometimes 90, then 30. And then the next day, 15, and then 0. Not very subtle. Not very subtle. So anyway, we take you and we say, look, let's look in history. Who sprayed the bioweapons? Who are the Phoenix guys who sprayed all this stuff? The Phoenix Club, right? Operation Project Phoenix. John talks about it with terror. They had this little book to get in their club that you will use terror on people as a means of control. If you really want to control them, you cause suffering. You must cause suffering in order to completely control a population. They'll never believe you unless you cause suffering. Terror is not enough. You have to have suffering. You have to have kids with birth defects, and you have to have all the Agent Orange horror for them to really, really, really be afraid of the P3 Orion that's coming to spray them, right? Otherwise, they'll never fear the P3 Orion, okay? And that was mainly a surveillance plane, but the B-52s were fitted out with these tanks and just spraying. So we take you to the place where these people show this cheekiness. We took you to the place here where, Air Force One, a mock-up, actually had the tail pointed at the White House. And in a show of, hey, we don't think you're, we think you're just an elected temporary occupant of the White House, and we're here at the CIA because we train every day to overthrow people like you, and you're nothing compared to us. We are in power. So that's why we take you there. We take you and show you an example of Frank Olson, talk about Wormwood, talk about how he was, compromised with the LSD and got into the sickness just like John's dad, and then, got thrown out of a window. Just to remind you who you're dealing with. We pull the historical documents, MK, Naomi. We contrast that with everyone just harping on MK Ultra, right? Because that's what they want you to talk about. That's where they want you to focus, because then you sound like a QAnon guy or a QAnon gal. But if you say NK Naomi, everybody goes, what's that? What's NK Naomi? That's why we focus on NK Naomi. We don't fall into the trap. And again, we're not saying Armitage did it. We're not saying Shackley did it, but we are saying these Phoenix program guys did believe in this. Terror is not enough. We must cause suffering on a mass scale in order for them to fear us. In order for the terror to work and for our threats to work, we must cause suffering. Okay, Cofer Black. These are the guys we're talking about. So we give you a little reminder there. And there's khaki again. There's your visual reminder. So now we're getting into the virus vaccine game, and now we're sort of reminding you that Jenny Mork had this kind of virus vaccine thing figured out, but also, even though as close as she was, Sanofi, universal vaccine, universal battlefield antidote, she even missed it because she fell for the James Alefantis distraction, and I didn't. So I took her metadata, and I was right on this in 2017 that this would be released, and this was the insurance policy for Peter Strzok, I believe. We don't know yet. So looking at these things now is sort of like, I'm so glad I did it because they're gone. You can still buy them, but I don't get any money for them anymore, I don't think. Unless somebody hacked me. Somebody could have hacked me and went in and terminated the account. But this just happened, so I don't know. But please buy them from us now, because I am cut off from any communication with Amazon right now through KDP. But Ratlines by the Sea basically did this long arc. We drew a long arc from the people who did Enron, right? all the bioweapons that were used for all those pipelines in Enron, and drew a line straight over here and said Belt and Road, all these other Belt and Road pipelines with China as a partner, all these bioweapons. And now eventually it's going to come home. It's going to come home, right? Same guys. Enron to Wuhan. That was that book. So, more visuals, gain of function. Okay. Buy the book, please, if you would, so we can print the 50 tonight to stick Amazon, thumb our nose at Amazon. But we did the work and said, if this was a combined bioweapon, and it did have the S spikes, and it had the HIV spikes, and it had the H spikes and the N spikes from the H1N1. This is who would be doing it. The Erasmus Lab. Okay, you heard Addie talk about going and researching FluGen, which is the universal vaccine, right? You can't have the universal vaccine unless you have account for all 4 spikes. Otherwise, one of them gets through. You have to have antibodies for all 4 spikes to stop the bioweapon. The only people doing that kind of gain of function was Faucier. I wrote a book about it called Dutch virus, and also spray it in Dutch. We complete the cycle here with Chengdu and show how Sanofi not only built the Wuhan the Wuhan lab of virology where the breakout occurred, they also did the one in Chengdu where the World Police and Fire Games were 2 months early, where they also had a mini breakout. It's sort of like having, I don't know, Muhammad Atta, moves into town, and we have an anthrax outbreak, and he's a scholar, a Duisburg scholar, and in Chengdu. And 2 months later, he moves to Wuhan, and we have an outbreak in Wuhan. And we know he's a Duisburg scholar. We know he studied bioweapons, and he did bioweapons in Egypt, and he did bioweapons training and mixing in Syria for Muslim Brotherhood. If I'm an anti-terrorist guy, right? If I'm at the CIA doing anti-terrorism, I'd say, well, I don't know. Call me crazy, but this guy works for a German operative named Rudy Deckers. He's in this Duisburg program that gives scholarship money for biochemical weapons development, since the guy it's named after started chemical weapons for Bayer. Okay. He mixed collated fermented bioweapons in Egypt, and then he did it in Syria. And now here he's moving into Chengdu. I'm not saying this is a true story. This is just an example. And then he did it in Wuhan. A pattern is emerging here, right? And just take the name Muhammad Atta out and put in Blackwater. Put in Eric Prince. You did it in Iraq. You did it in Afghanistan. You did it in Libya. You did it in Syria. You did it all over Africa. We can't even count all the African countries. You did it in Sudan. You did it in Yemen. And you probably stockpiled it in Iran. And you used it as an insurance policy, potentially in 2016 against Trump. Your wife at Spectrum Health is where the IP attacks against Trump, trying to associate Trump with Alpha Bank, occurred from Grand Rapids. There's only one way you could go from the central time zone to the Eastern time zone in under an hour. And that's from Chicago, the Wrigley building, to Spectrum Health headquarters to change the timestamp. That's the only place in America where you also have these actors. You have to have a DNC there, right? That's for starters. Remember, that's where at the DNC in Chicago, the MIS department is where the thumb drive goes to the Minister of Health to Pakistan. Another cover position, uncovered by diplomatic cover. out of the U.S. Congress. Imran Awan's agent gives him the thumb drive right there. There's only one place you can go. It has to be a Spectrum Health IP for the launch of Guccifer. That's Grand Rapids. Simple Forensics, the Forensicator came out with that analysis. We added the fact that, hey, you got to start at a DNC location, you got to end up at a Blackwater location. It's Blackwater over and over and over again. Anybody doing any kind of, back of envelope analysis would kind of go, well, I don't know if I really want to work on this case or not, because I've already kind of solved it. It seems like Blackwater again. I mean, you remember Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. I mean, how many in a row do you need before you kind of go, well, it's going to be Blackwater. So do you guys really want to give me the money? I mean, I'll hang around here, but I'd like to, go golfing or something. I've already figured this out. Ralph Barrick here, again, we're just giving you a visual to key in on, is a fall guy. One of 9 labs, one of 11 labs that Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky. And they're shielding you from the 10 labs where all the action was. They're throwing out to you the guy who did the humanized mouse. They're throwing out to you the guy who did the styrofoam ball, the chimera capsid protein genome. This is the stuff you stick the spike proteins in. This is the stuff you stick the T's, the golf T's in, the H spikes, the N spikes, the HIV spikes, the S protein spikes. That's what you stick stuff into. You're getting the capsid. You're getting the membrane protein and the capsid proteins. That's what you're getting with Ralph Barrick and the humanized mouse model, which is just we changed some genes in the mouse to make it look more like a human. Well, you can do that for multiple sclerosis or Epstein's Barr or Guillain-Barré or whatever. That's not going to be a telltale. What they don't want you to have is the telltale so that you figure it out, right? They don't want you to see the Burisma. Oh, geez, we left the Burisma calling card there. That's not good. When they do leave something, it's always so much over the top orgy of evidence that it can't even be believed. John McAfee said this about the DNC hack. Who would do the direct attack from GRU headquarters? GRU headquarters was where supposedly the DNC hack occurred. If it wasn't an FBI operation to have 2 people dial in from the GRU, who would do that? John McAfee talked about that. This is insane. He also talked about the code of Stuxnet in Iran, pissing off Peter Strzok, I'm sure, to no end. Meaning that they did a code check. They did what they call a checksum. They saw, hey, the code's okay. Meaning it had to be an inside job run from somebody who was on the inside of the airlock. If I'm bringing people in the Battelle Institute and we're giving them our little contractor badge, right? I'm Lisa Page and I'm Peter Strzok, and I'm sending them out with their contractor badge, their little, Twix card. Hey, I'm here at Lawrence Livermore. I don't even care if I'm in security. I get to run the network. I'm here to back up your systems. I'm Imran Awan. I'm Parnas. I'm Fruman. Here, DOD Information Center, Columbus, Ohio. There's my creds. There's my credentials. I'm here from Battelle. I'm here to help. Okay. Ralph Barrick is a distraction. So we remind you of Wuhan's long history with the CIA, going back to Frank Hodel, setting up this virus vaccine, drugs in one direction, illegal drugs and pharmaceuticals, cheap pharmaceuticals in one direction, vaccines in the other direction to test on huge populations. Going all the way back to Alan Dulles' man in Wuhan, Hodel. And then you have all these other things going on with Hodel, with Bob Mayhew and all these NASA parties and $1 million houses, Frank Lloyd Wright's son, and John Huston's there and Gregory Peck's there cleaning up dog poop. You wonder, hey, there's got to be some powerful people at play here if John Huston's here serving tea and Gregory Peck is cleaning up the dog poop, right? Doesn't that tell you that this isn't just, doesn't tell you that it's government sponsored? That house, that Frank Lloyd Wright house, is under intense surveillance, right? That tells you this is a government operation. Tells you he's connected, right? It tells you he's connected in this virus vaccine game. He's the one who wants the Chenault pilots to fly over the hump. Hodel. This goes all the way back to Chiang Kai-shek in 1945. We remind you of that. The visuals of here remind you of that. We produce testimonies from the Italian athletes saying, hey, I got really sick. I've been pressured not to say I got really sick. We heard the defecation stories in the shower, uncontrollable bowel movements of the Canadian team earlier today. Here are the Italian athletes saying similar things. These are things to show you that this is what really happened. And here are the 5 military hospitals that were built, or the 5 hospitals that were unveiled, new hospitals. Why? Maybe because it'll be a Pandora that we're trying to keep inside the box, but the Pandora could get out. What if the infirmary did run out of medicine? Where would we go? Many of the athletes did go to these other hospitals. Check the record. You'll see a lot of these athletes didn't stay in the infirmary. A lot of them did check into these hospitals. So we're going to be doing your biosurveillance. It's being run with military preparation and military planning. We tell you who CISM is, their long history. It starts with Italian fascists in 96. I don't know as if it ever changes. Everybody they pick since then, it seems to be a ragdoll placeholder. Here we got a German doctor who says, hey, 99% of the cases can be tracked back even before the game started to Italy. I wonder if that has anything to do with all the Chinese tailors and people doing the sporting equipment, sporting outfits for this thing that were in Milan, where we said the breakout occurred in the summer of 2019, flying back and forth. Where Dr. was it Azuzi or Aguzzi? It's in a previous book where he said the breakout was in the summer of 2000, where we have John Wilkins on our channel down in Cleveland saying, hey, I barely made it out of there. When'd you leave? Well, it's summer, you know. Andy here shows you the long history here of using virus and vaccine game for subjugation, in this case, Libya. But it's going to be for any country in Africa. It's been a long-term strategy the Strucks have used, USAID's used, State Department's used for subjugation and pacification. This is what they didn't think of in Vietnam. They tried it in Vietnam. It didn't work. Saw the movie with Apocalypse Now, and Marlon Brando is there at the end, and he's talking about the vaccination of the village. And he says, it hit me like a diamond bullet right in the middle of my forehead. He's daubing the sweat away with his rag. We inoculated a village. We inoculated them. Every child we inoculated. And as we left, thinking we had done something so incredible, we went back and we saw a little pile of arms all at the edge of the village. Meaning, we know it's a bioweapon and we don't want it. We'd rather our kids right, left-handed than take your virus or your vaccine or both. So it didn't work there, but it did work in Africa. I think you're going to find that Ebola was the card, the terrorists, the true terror, suffering, we must generate suffering crew. They found their winner, their ace in the hole, which was the symbol of the Phoenix program, the ace of spades, they found their ace with Ebola. You're going to see Ebola before this is all done. Cinobavari's favorite pathogen. So we have a similar thing. We remind you here the French, right? We remind you the French had similar experiences, right? And then, well, as all good stories do, they all come home at the end. And we bring you back to the U.S. and the U.S. actors, and we point across at the Navy Research Lab, and we point across at DIA, we point over to DARPA, which did all the wacky stuff in Vietnam. It's the same crew since Vietnam, guys. They never quit. They never stop. They just create a different cover story. Flynn Intel Group could be considered a fig leaf. And Andy pulls together a beautiful chart here. It shows the whole subjugation strategy of Africa. And that's your visual to remind you. And then he shows you the tripartite strategy for taking Libya. Beautiful, using the source documents. I love when you use their documents, right? Thomas says, show me the documents. And if you don't have the documents, well, I'll show you George Webb's 2017 documents. I just won't credit George Webb. I'll just leave I show George Webb documents. I showed George Webb 2017 documents. I'll get rid of George Webb and I'll get rid of 2017. And I'll just say, show me the documents. And I'll be the show me the documents guy. But when you see show me the documents, you're going to see 2017 George Webb documents. If Shakespeare's folios, let's say you're on the ship, there was a big, the Tempest, right? It's all about a shipwreck in Bermuda. Some people think Bermuda. And let's say there was a Shakespeare fan on there. Let's say Shakespeare himself wanted to go to Bermuda, and he had all of his folios there, or different, Romeo and Juliet, etc. Macbeth, and Shakespeare dies, and the folios wash up on shore. If you're the guy, if you're the wrecker, a lot of times these were wrecks where they turn the lights off, and they turn the flags off, and they don't tell the ship they're out there. They'll hit the rocks, and we'll be able to pick through the detritus, right? Right. If a couple of folios come up on the shore, you don't have to tell anybody those are Shakespeare's documents. You're Shakespeare for all intents and purposes on that island. If you're on Bermuda, like, show me the documents. Everybody thinks you're Shakespeare. So that's probably show me the documents right there, objecting, but look at his documents. It's George Webb, 2017. So we'll let that go. The next couple of slides talk about the history of vaccination and the use of public health and the use of, hey, if we come up with a secret sauce to protect us, that means we could use it against them. The thing that used to be our scourge now becomes our power. If we inoculated the milkmaids with cowpox, or just noticed that they'd never died of smallpox, and then we shoved the needle in some little kids and found out they didn't die when we exposed them to smallpox after they'd been exposed to cowpox, we can now go to the new world, spread all kinds of smallpox blankets because we have the cowpox vaccine. That's exactly what happened in Virginia and all over the East Coast, I think. The history of bioweapons goes back a long way in America, right? So Andy produces a great graph here of all the different antigens that were introduced and immunization schedules that have occurred from 2000 to 2015 that the State Department's been involved in. It's beautiful data that's reproduced here. And he also produces this Frankenstein virus with the H spike, the N spike, HIV spike, the S protein spikes. Beautiful. Um, beautiful representation he puts together here. And here's your close up. I love this. And I want to create these with a styrofoam ball and 4 different Matt Lake's the local golf pro here that you'll meet when you come to Temperance in July, on July 12th to 16th. But we'll get you some Matt Lake golf lessons. Don't worry. But before that, we're going to use the Matt Lake tees to, I wish it could be a golf ball in the middle. I wish we could stick the tees into the golf ball. But this is the idea of all the spikes and how your body couldn't ever survive a weapon like this. And how only someone who did the nanoparticle at the National Structural Biology Research Center in University of Washington, Gates, has the lock. This is sort of like you have to buy the operating system for us, right? This is the settlers could only have hoped this. This is everything. Throw everything. Throw cholera and every known disease that would kill Indians, and have one tablet that you could take to inoculate the settlers and wipe them all out, right? That's what Gates has here now. He has you can't run any programs unless you pay my tax, unless you pay my toll. John McAfee was a pretty good guy until he fell into this. Till he started writing backdoors and fell into this, he was a pretty good guy, but he sold his soul when he allowed the first backdoor to go in. They had to kill Jobs to break the encryption on the iPhone. Gates, he never could sell a phone. We kept telling him, your phone sucks. Too heavy, way too much menus, way too many features. Do the basics right. We did all the usability studies. They threw them all out. They kept making phones nobody wanted. So nobody cares about a backdoor on a Windows phone, right? Android, they had to steal the operating system from Jobs. Eric Schmidt stole the next generation operating system that Apple was writing from Steve Jobs. He was on the board. He should have recused himself because there were competitors in that area, but he didn't. And Eric, I love you to death. They work for you, but I know you stole this code from Steve Jobs and created Android. And that's a true story. So here we have the House of Representatives, right? These are your touch points for verification. That, Flynn Intel Group is involved in technology transfer. They are involved with Saudi Arabia, the governments of Saudi Arabia, and the smaller principalities like Bahrain, Qatar. Isn't it interesting? The general that says we should have the CISM games in Wuhan is from Bahrain, from a principality we control that never had a democratically election ever. It was created by BP because it was on their old telephone trunk line to India. Never, ever has had an election, but that's going to be the people. That's the general that's going to decide where the Wuhan military games is going to be.
We only have 4 more first editions left.
4 more? You printed that many?
No, that's out of the 50. We only have 4 more left.
Oh, so we need 4 more orders to fulfill the 50. You heard it out there, folks. We need to sell 4 more editions, and to really thumb Amazon, we only need 4 more sales to complete our order of 50. And that's a pretty good day's work. When you went from 0 revenue yesterday, the printers got here, right? Thank you to our Deep Virginia. I'll call her Deep Virginia. I can't wait too long. Well, we didn't wait too long, Deep Virginia. I can't sing it like Train does, but she wears high heels when she exercises. Remember that line? That was a good line. And this lady, Deep Virginia, does actually wear high heels as she exercises. But we thank her very much for her generous donation of the printers, and we did not wait an hour before those things were printing. So that was a beautiful thing. The first person that ever touched A piece of paper that went in for a print was from Ghana, Africa. So there you go. And was not white, Donnie O'Sullivan, or whoever writes those narratives that you people think up that have no connection whatsoever to the truth. No connection. George Webb, I'm going to make him far right. Well, gosh, he's got these 3 things with the Bernie. Let's just say nobody's going to ever check that. We can say whatever we want. Well, he voted for Obama twice. He never voted for Trump. Hell with it. Just say he's a Trump supporter. We have pictures of him on January 6th. Well, the person put the first edition. She put the cover in. She's from Africa. Doesn't really fit our narrative. Go ahead. Just say he's a white supremacist. That nobody's going to check. Just print it. Jim Sciutto. He'll agree that I'm good. Poppy Harlow, she'll say it's good. Brian Seltzer, we don't even know. I mean, he never checks his sources, right? I mean, he's no problem. This will sail through. Don't worry. Just push it out. And we'll do it again at the election. Do it a couple times. We'll get some State Department people in here and they'll act like victims. Even though they're not born in the United States, they're over 50, they were last place. But they're going to say they're the victims because they work for the Supreme Allied Commander. During Libya, that great example of UN peacekeeping. Well, the representation of that great UN peacekeeping is right there in front of you. Right there at Flint Intel Group. That's the big arrow coming down and destroying civilizations. That's what the bioweapons did. That's what General Grange did. That's what Cindy Grange did. That's what NATO Act did in Norfolk. Through NATO as a proxy to destroy that country for primarily British Petroleum and Royal Dutch Shell interests. There at the bottom of the canal at Flint Intel Group, you see the detritus of that civilization, and they could not care less because their clients were paid. They were the mercenaries, came in, did their job, and that's what mercenaries get paid to do, dead bodies. You don't count hired guns by how many bullets they shoot. You pay them by how many dead bodies you count up at the end of the day. So we go to emergent biosolutions. I just got a couple more great pieces of information about emergent biosolutions, but it always seems to, when you have emergent overthrows, I guess that's when you go from covert to overt. When you have emergent overthrows, well, then you need emergent biosolutions. Not too far from us here in Lansing with the anthrax vaccine. Hey, I got a great idea. Let's send all of our troops over to where we have a less than 100 casualties in the war, less than 100 shooting casualties. Most of the casualties in Iraq 1 are accidents. You got people moving things that weigh 50 tons all the time, backing up, bullets flying and everything. You don't have the safety precautions in time. People don't know what they're doing with weapons, explosives, and so forth. You get 100 casualties. I think maybe I'm thinking of just the initial shock and awe phase was only 100, but 1,000 or so. I don't know what the actual casualty figures are, but it's the same as the Pearl Harbor yellow fever vaccine. Way more people died of the vaccine than of the bombing in Pearl Harbor. Check it. Thousands and thousands died of the vaccine. Now that's serving somebody else's interest. As Bob Dylan would say, you gotta serve somebody. You gotta serve somebody, but you ain't serving me if you kill me, right? You gotta serve somebody. You're serving somebody if you're emergent biosolutions. And Zika virus, I mean, you name it. They run the table with the emergent bioweapons. They should call it emergent bioweapons. Just be straight up and honest. That's why we go there. We give you the visual. I love this handicap parking sign as an anchor for that picture, because that's where the vaccine injuries. That's just the pointer saying, hey, we got to serve somebody, and we don't care how many parking spots we have to create for the vaccine injured. We don't care. There's a vaccine court. That's why we put the sign here, and we have the pointer going down on forever. Jerry in the yard goes forever. Remember them? Jerry in the lawn goes forever. This is Jerry and the vaccine injured go on forever, and we don't care. Emergent bioweapons. So we'll finish here. Hopefully by the time our show's over, we'll have the 50 sold, and I'll start signing. But why all the Farsi speaking trucking companies that have, this is sort of like the Ocean's 11 getting to choose who drives the Brinks truck. Geez, we got all these Farsi guys here at the gambling tables, and we have the Farsi guy over here. And let's say this is Vegas. And we have the Farsi guy at the croupier table, and then we have the Farsi guy over there at the blackjack table, and the Farsi guy over there at the pit boss, and then the Farsi guy's upstairs with the security, and then there's a Farsi guy over there as the head of security, and then there's the Farsi cops, the Farsi game, gaming authority. And where are we? Are we in Tehran? Are we in Isfahan? No, we're in Vegas. And then here comes the deet, deet, deet. Here comes the Brinks truck, and it's two Farsi guys. Sina Bavari is one of them, right? Hey, Sina, how you doing? Shouldn't you be over at Fort Detrick? Oh, I'm done at Fort Detrick today. This is my second pickup. Oh, okay. Well, here's all our gold. We'll just shove it in the back. That's your cue. You got the cue right there at the loading dock. Task force was on it. And there's the airport. Well, once we get it in the thing, once we get it in the armored car, we don't want it. They don't get good mileage. We want to go right over here to the Frederick Airport and fly it to Wuhan. They'd never sprayed before for pipelines. Well, here we laid it out. This wasn't for the 2014 invasion of Syria, because they wanted to recapitulate the old pipeline that went to the north. They wanted to do this time through the south. They got what they wanted with the Golan Heights, so don't worry too much about them. But this was an 80s plan against Assad's father. They just took the old plan out of the desk and went. It's your visual. There's your cue, and a guy who was there, Chris IP Hunter. Okay, we move into the military personnel being guinea pigs for these experimental vaccines, and the truth about the Iraq and Iraqi and Afghanistani vaccines. And you can see here how China has been this helper with NATO in the vaccines. Thank you, NATO. Thank you, China, for inoculating our soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. Thank you. And then Chris says, remember that Emergency Biosolutions, and they had this up here in Lansing, they had the course of 6 vaccines. See, I can give you a little bit what you need, a little bit of medicine, right? And then I can put in an experimental. I give you a little bit more medicine, and I can give you a little more experimental. And I can do that 6 times with a 6-courser. And here's David Petraeus making sure General Shelton, his boss, is getting it. And General Shelton dies not too long after. So here's Biden. He's making everybody in the military get one. A lot of, I hear the numbers are high. It's 40% of people saying I'm out as far as the people going to train in South Korea. Of course, the strategy is always make patriots terrorists. That's the National Counterterrorism Strategy. There's your anchor there. Here are people working for credentialed press. Okay, Donnie O'Sullivan, we're going to try to present me as a terrorist in front of your jury on January 6th. I'm a credentialed press with Ann Vandersteel and Andy Eds. Obviously not wearing any Trump gear. It says Miami of Ohio on the jacket, Donnie, right? Not waving any Trump flags. They're covering the story, interviewing people. I just happened to interview somebody from SEIU in Chicago who's been a Democrat all of his life and says, we need to act out. Even if you're religious, you need to make this your day of violence. Seems like a setup. Well, everyone says, well, there's no forethought, there's no foreknowledge, there's nothing you have in advance of the rollout of this vaccine that would show practice. You have Allen Iverson talking about practice. If you want to say there's a bioweapon, you're going to have to show me practice. I'm scoring 42 a game. You're talking about practice. Well, here's Crimson Contagion, Alan. And that's going to be 8 months of practice. 8 months we practiced before we rolled this thing out. Sound like Blackwater to you? Here's the proof. Andy brings you the documentation. 11 states. Of course, Rahm Emanuel's Illinois. Of course, Arizona. Of course, New Mexico, Idaho, Colorado, Kansas, New York, New Jersey, New Hampshire. Here's your documentation. Andy Dybala provides it. And so now let's wind it all up. Is the U.S. State Department the black hand here paying for everything, which is really the CIA? Is this just another diplomatic rinse? Well, if you're a Beatles fan, yep, it sure is. You get by with a little help from your USAID friends, because the One Health Network university system is set up by you guessed it, USAID. And all those guys down at Galveston, remember those 11 labs that Senator Paul was talking about? That's one of them. That's Strux. That's where one of the Strux who has the midnight meeting in the Situation Room, that's one of them, is in Houston right there. That's where the Chinese burn everything in the consulate. Would you use a border town like Galveston for your infiltration operations, or would you use Shawnee Mission, Kansas? Porous border. Hey, we'll just have a big group of people come marching and we'll publicize the crap out of it about 3 hours away. And we'll have all those cameras, and then the Border Patrol will go over there and we'll just bring in the operatives we need to come into Galveston. Hey, those fishing boats with their sails afloat, if we could only see, right? The familiar sunrise of operatives sailing by me, right? And there are the pictures to prove it, right? We helped build it. University of Texas, Galveston proves it. Lots of confirmation from social media. You're going to see some prints. And then we print some end notes for you just to remind you of all the things kind of we've been touching on and all the evidence gathering we're doing. And we give you another a lot of pages, of documentation and proof there, and some other ideas of who might be behind it, like Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum, sponsoring Event 201 with Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation. So I haven't had, Andy's been printing books. We need 4 more orders to get to 50. And then we're going to stop, maybe. I don't know. Maybe we'll do 100. But because we have to go to the Trump thing tomorrow. And we will probably take some of the books over there. But I can only say that I'm very disappointed in Amazon. In if I misuse a logo and you knock it down, great, I get it. But to destroy somebody's library and their work for a whole year, kind of like YouTube doing the same thing for over 4 years work. But this every time they do this, what ends up happening is I have to rewrite everything and it becomes more clear and more synthesized. Everyone said, wow, the best thing ever happened to George is all of his videos got blown away because now he can condense them all into short books and everybody loved the books, right? Well, I'm going to do the same thing again now with these kind of super books, which are gorgeous and color fast. We have color lock. We've got color lock. Oh my God. They don't, Amazon doesn't even have color lock. We got color lock. We have the toughest stickler ever on printing. He ran a printing graphics company. Man, we ran through the thing. Oh, look at this thing. It's gorgeous. Get them while they're hot. Buy them. Signed originals. Signed limited edition originals. So this is the audio companion you get with the book. A lot of people, I probably cannibalized all the rest of the book sales because everybody goes, oh, I know what the book's about. I just heard him say it. But that's not what the book's about. It's way more than that. It's way more in depth, and you'll have these cues, and more importantly, you'll be able to make notes. We have enough room on these new books to make notes, which is really kind of cool. And I really want to thank everybody in the chat because I know we went 2 hours already. So the real, true blue, fantastic supporters are here. Yeah, I did. And Connie says you supported Obama and he was the biggest supporter of open borders, just like Biden. I'm not saying I wasn't wrong. I'm just saying what the facts are. If they go and say, well, we're going to pull your voting record. We're going to pull your voting record. Well, you voted for Obama. You're a registered Democrat. You voted for Obama again. You're a registered Democrat. I think I somehow can make a unicorn fly through the head of a pin with somebody holding it up in Cairo at midnight easier than I can convince this jury that you were a far right conspiracy theorist. There's none of the metadata points in that direction. If not the other way, I could see somebody saying I was a communist. As a matter of fact, I was accused even of being a communist after I covered the Chinese foreign ministry statement about the people bringing it to Wuhan. He says, hey, it's Spanish flu too. That was ships. This is planes. Same U.S. soldiers. Spanish flu too. So that's what got people saying I was a communist. It's going to be tough. It'll be tough in front of the jury, Donnie. Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for coming. Yeah, I love that. Lazy slander. We're here at CNN, and if you're tired of, programming, God, isn't their programming repetitive? Every show, it's the same script. And they hit the same things every show. Don Lemon and Anderson Cooper. It's always Chris Cuomo. It's always the same script. They write one script and just repeat it all day long. I can't even say it's lazy. It's beyond lazy. It's like mindless symmetry. It's simpletonism writ large. The CNN loop is tiresome. So I'm going to quickly go over some of the comments because I'm going to make sure I didn't miss anything. I see Connie talking about she doesn't have any signed originals from me. And we can change that. I think she probably bought one. I hope. Thermobserval says sea of green and sky of blue. Is that a Beatles song? Yellow Submarine? Sea of green, sky of blue, in my yellow submarine. Isn't that? Maybe I've got the words wrong. Yeah, you can order direct. Say it says find a new publisher, George. Garden Girl says, I'm so glad you said that because we are it. And that sound you hear of the printing is the sounds of freedom. It's happening right over there. You can order today. We'll ship it to you tomorrow. Bob Kenter says, I just bought the George's version of Corona Roadshow on Kindle in Australia. Well, see, now that, in a way, Amazon's taking that money, but I only make $1 on that book. And then you could see all the great stuff in the book and go, oh my God, I got to get this thing in hardback. I'll order that from directly from the network here. Now, how we get it to you in Australia and what the cost is going to be, I don't know. When I lived there, I remember shipping a container, believe it or not, to Australia. And we did a container back. I mean, I was in the Imran business for a while. I did not have diplomatic immunity, though. We've got calls coming in. I'm going to get the phone just to see what happens here. Is this Tyrone? Okay, just 1 second. You're live on the air. How about that? Okay, hold on. We have a live caller here. Hold on, just a second. You're in Louisiana? Caller, you're in Louisiana?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You want to say your first name for the audience or no? Connie. Oh, wow. You're not Connie Bevan, though. I know that.
No.
Okay, well, tell me about Monroe.
Oh, well, it's just a small little sleepy town.
I
was curious, when I went to the neighborhood news website, all the books are out of stock. So how do you order them?
Oh, okay. The first book, we are going to probably take those all in stock. So Andy, this is a great call because I just got shut down by Amazon. So they'll all be orderable. But what we're going to do is signed editions of 50. So we're going to wait till we get 50 of something before we send it out just to keep production efficiency. But the first book is Corona Roadshow. You can't order Corona Roadshow?
No, they're all out of stock.
Oh, okay. So that must mean we sold all 50. Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, if you send an email to neighborhoodnewsstudio@gmail.com, I'll get you tell me which ones you want and we'll print them for you.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Yeah. Do the price there plus shipping. And then, you say which ones you want and we'll do it tonight. So
okay.
there you go.
Thank you so much. And thanks for taking my call.
All right. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Well, as things are happening here real time at the studio so fast. We put up out of stock initially because we were going to do 50 at a time, but now we're going to have to sell them all. Maybe we'll do limited runs of 10. I think we might do limited, just take them all up to 10 and just print 10 of everything in order to have some efficiencies or maybe something like that. We'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do 3 at a time because I have to go update them all. And I want to add to all of them because they're all like my babies, but you don't want your babies to be like 14 forever. You want them to grow up and be doctors and lawyers and such. or maybe just doctors. But anyway, yeah, there you go. Yeah, and Bob makes a good point that Kindle is great. I hate to think of all my Kindle revenue going to Jeff Bezos. Ugh. But anyway, it is great for international distribution. And I thought I was a pretty good partner to Amazon. If I ever make a mistake and, with the YouTube logo and, my old buddy Eric Schmidt comes down on me, I took it down. No problem. If you have an issue, I mean, I didn't make any money on the book. $12, $15 for, I don't know. It's I did sell a lot of books the first day until they complained about the logo, but maybe I made $100 on the book. Okay, well, they get the $100. Okay, but does that mean you have to blow up the relationship? I don't know. It just seems like they're ganging up. Anyway, it doesn't matter because we're gonna go change that right now. And I want to thank everybody. I'm going to leave the chat open for a couple of minutes just to let people talk. And what I'd like you to do is just say, I'd like to do a book a day. Here's what I'd really like to do is a book a day, because then that lets me focus totally on looking at the book, reading it again, adding all the things that I didn't do the first, second, third time. This is a fourth round, usually on most of the books. And although some of them, it's like the 10th round, like Under Lockdown is probably the next one I'm going to print for tomorrow, because that book has been rewritten 10 times because I'd gotten it knocked down about 8 times. So that book is really, really well written. And that it's the one that Addie helped with the index on, and the glossary and the table of contents and all the other kind of nice to have front matter and back matter things. So that will probably be tomorrow. And that's a great book, Under Lockdown. Great book. So maybe that's what we work on tonight. I got up at 3 doing this, and now I got to stay up all night. Okay, get up early. Doesn't matter. We're going to do Under Lockdown. I do feel bad now that I got that call, because now I'm feeling like we should maybe take the whole library and put it out there and just start accumulating orders, and then run a print job at, an order quantity, economic order quantity. I learned about that in Miami Business School. Wait till we get 10 orders to then ship it. Never put an impediment in front of the customer, right, to order. So maybe that's what we'll do. I'll talk to Andy tonight, and we'll print. We'll trigger the thing at 10. Sound fair enough? Or when we get time. There's somebody calling my other phone. I'm going to go get it. Just a second. Stop ringing. Anyway, I'm sure somebody had don't you know about EOQ? Are you sure you went to Miami? You sure you didn't go to University of Cincinnati with Mark Lambert? Cradle of Criminals. Are you sure you went to the Cradle of Coaches? I mean, I'm just checking. No, I love you guys at Cincinnati. You're wonderful. Wonderful people. So anyway, why would you do that, George? You just alienated people and went to UC. Oh, well, never mind. That's just one of those things that people at Miami do. So yeah, we'll go ahead and take those off. You can order anything. And then when we get to a quantity of 10, we'll ship. How's that for a deal? We don't want to keep people waiting. But we'll put them all up there. I think there's 16 of them up there. And I do like the one at a time focus, because then it kind of focuses your energy to then add all the new goodies and everything and update it, and, all the creature features, and then republish. So I'll let you know tomorrow. How's that? I'll let you know tomorrow. So I don't know if we hit our goal of 50. Oh, you got calls coming in. This is George. You're on the air.
Hello, Charlie Hill here.
Hey, Charlie. How you doing? No, this is George. How are you?
Oh, hey, George.
Hey.
Long time. I'm doing well.
Yeah. So what do you think we should do, Charlie? Start taking orders for everything, or do 5 books at a time, or what would you recommend?
As far as the books go, as you were just saying,
Sold out. Yeah.
I like the way. So far, I like how you guys are printing them with, and some of them may be 50 pages, and some of them are 100 pages, and some of them are 150 pages. But that's a similar thing as you've mentioned. That our Thomas Paine back many years, and so the 50-page sort of pamphlet. So I'd recommend. George, are you still there?
I'm still here. We just put you on a better patch so we can hear you better.
Okay. So I recommend a 30-page pamphlet style, multiple copies.
Yeah.
That we can distribute with a free of charge, and then the 50-page really good soft bound books, and then for people that actually have a mind between their shoulders, that actually still know how to read books, or just want their book to just to sit on their coffee table so that they they
a second. I got it.
What?
You're back.
Oh, I'm back. I could call. ECAT says, okay.
I could call. I mean,
Can you hear Aaron? Can anybody hear Aaron?
no, they can't. There's no audio. There's no audio.
Trust me, you're back.
I've got Andy
You're
saying,
muted.
oh, I was muted.
I think you are back on now. I think,
Okay. See how it goes? See
triple
how
coverage here.
see how it is, Kolomoisky? Is this your homework, Kolomoisky? Are these your bioweapons, Kolomoisky? Are these your bagmen, Kolomoisky? Hold on. This is great. I love it when you can go.
We hope we are not entering a world of pain.
Yeah. Well, I think Amazon's entering
A world of pain, Kolomoisky. A world of pain. I'm hanging up. I think you're back on. Peace out.
Okay, great. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so there you go. Beautiful. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to go to the website. We're going to show you what the website looks like. Now, we've sold out of the limited edition of 50 books, and we have to be good to our, a word here. I'm only going to do a limited edition of 50s. People can still order them, but the limited edition just sold out. Okay, and so we're going to do another limited edition now. Andy, I think this is like going to be, like I said, home book shopping network, right? So he's going to go to the neighborhoodnewsstudio.com. He's going to go over to the book tab. Let's start another one. I know. Well, I mean, let's not be the people that are in the way. Hey, I got an idea, Andy. Let's take a quick poll of the next of those books. Can we go back? I know we sold the 50. It's done. Let's go to the next one. Go back to the other inventory now, dude. Oh, let's go do the. I know you don't want to print any more books, and yeah, but we're gonna have help for the books. But anyway, let's look at those books now. Let's call him Macduff is up there. Anthrax 911. A 1 minutes to midnight. Okay. Out of all those books, the ones that I think are the most important, I'm going to we have to put some other ones up there, Andy. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Right. I